I had to act in a role slightly longer than was intended.
Okay.
And this was because...
somebody had left that role?
Yes, and then I was a successor. But there's governance around filling the role, and you had to do like the internal governance to get into the role in terms of the
processing
analysis and the testing and all that. But there were delays, there were significant delays. And initially, it was a huge setback for me because, you know,
For how long?
It was over a year.
How did you start? How did you even bear the idea even way back in school?
Agents say you're a leader of tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
but then I would look at those people, they told us that when we were in there. We were
10, 20, 30, 40, and they're still there.
So yes, I had a lot of energy and I wanted to do things a certain way and I was rude here and I was doing that. Eventually, I was fired.
Were you able to use any of your knowledge in promoting your business?
It's so complicated because I'm such a multifaceted person. I mean, we started in England. Good Hair started in England. Eventually, had to open something in Nigeria.
All hair is processed. You cannot take hair from a donor and put it into your head.
Once you're a public figure, you become a target.
Look at all the companies we started. We have board members from Nigeria, but also from around the world because we want to build world-class companies that outlive us.
Welcome to Omon's Couch, an entrepreneurship and career talk show where we help young entrepreneurs and professionals reach their full potential. My name is Omon Odike, your darling host, and I'll be bringing you amazing guests who have seen it all to educate and inspire you with their stories. Our guest today is an accomplished legal professional who specializes in commercial law and regulatory compliance and corporate governance. She's none other than Derin Adefulu. Let's welcome her to Omon's Couch. Derin, it's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. After so many bookings and so many try to actually reach you, I'm happy to have you. You look wonderful.
Thank you.
So I'm sure our viewers right now cannot wait to hear the wealth of wisdom which you're going to be sharing on Omon's Couch today. We're going to have a beautiful discussion. You've been running your career for over 20 years, that's 2 decades and counting. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers in their career want to know how you've been able to sustain it and move from just being an entry-level employee to where you are right now, which is a leadership role. We want to hear from you. Who is Derin Adefulu? Please share your career journey with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's great to be here.
Okay.
Where do I start? Okay. I'm a lawyer. And even though I'm a lawyer, I always try to say that I'm not defined by my career. I'm defined by who I am. And so, yes, I'm a lawyer, but I'm someone who happens to be a lawyer and fulfilled in my career, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
The journey, sometimes people assume there's been a plan or there's been a sort of structure around it.
Okay.
Mine wasn't that way. I think things happened over time and then lines fell into places.
For you?
Yes. I studied law. I graduated from law school. And then I think at the early part of my...
We're in the same law school. Let me drop that there.
Exactly. And look at you. You're doing your own thing. Even though I know you worked in a law firm.
For 6 years before
Awesome.
I started business.
Awesome. So I just... You know, at the early part of the career, sometimes you're driven by, you want to earn money or, you know, and then at that time, in today's world, I think many people have so many people to guide them or even structuring.
Yes.
We didn't really have mentors or people to
Thank you.
help us to be intentional.
Because our time, I mean, they have a lot of speakers now who will tell you, you can plan your career, you can plan your path. But during our time, there was nothing like that. You just create it yourself and move with the flow most of the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I even recall, to digress a bit, that during the summer time, my friends and our focus was on getting the jobs that would pay us money, as opposed to being strategic and aligning or getting work experience in maybe the right company, which would have helped us when we graduate.
Your
anyway,
portfolio.
yes. So after law school, I actually was in the UK with my husband, and I did a brief stint at Halifax Bank of Scotland. And that was like a service consultant, customer services role. And it was interesting in its own way. But circling back to moving to Nigeria, I worked in a leading law firm. And I think that is where I would technically say the career experience started in terms of where I am today. For many lawyers, having a law firm experience to me grounds you.
Yes.
And gives you some substance.
Yes,
and
it's just some depth and substance,
yes,
definitely.
Absolutely. And
it's not about money, it's about knowledge when you're in the law firm. Yes.
Oh, yes. And of course, the right balance. And then after that, I also worked in a bank, a leading bank. But my current role, I've even also worked in the digital marketing space. I worked with a company.
Interesting. Where exactly?
What did you do? Well, I was head legal and corporate affairs. But the company was involved in digital marketing for big FMCG companies. Okay. And whilst that wasn't my primary role, I understood the business and understood what that entailed. And it was quite innovative at the time. The company also had a publishing arm, and I was a copy editor of the magazine, a free monthly that was distributed across Lagos. After that, I joined the leading bank, and then in my current role with a multinational, Old Mutual, yes.
And that's an insurance company.
It's an insurance
company. And I noticed it's actually international because you have, I think, cover about 14 countries. Yes. For the first time, I actually thought they were a local establishment until I did some more research and found out that they're actually all over Africa.
Yes.
And also Asia,
yes,
to be precise.
Yes. So it's a leading multinational company, and I wear 3 hats in my role, even though the role is head of governance. Okay. I'm the company secretary, I'm the head of legal, and I'm also the chief compliance officer.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Juggling so many balls.
Yes. Just taking from what you have just said, head of legal, head of corporate governance, and also, what's the last one? Compliance. How have you been able to juggle those 3 roles?
No 2 days are the same, I must say. And you just need to have structure and the right support system around you. So I cannot do it all. I have excellent team members who work with me. And then I also say that my job is seasonal. You have quarterly board meetings. So you have the times when you're focused on the company secretarial arm of the business. And then you have times when you're really focused on regulatory compliance, or of course, every day you're managing legal risk and the litigation portfolio. So it just depends. Take one day at a time, and those strategies help.
Okay. Can you share with us the key lessons you have learned about corporate governance and legal compliance that have contributed to your success?
That's a good one. Well, basically, I can say that in terms of governance, I would talk about just things I have observed. You know, governance is about best practices and ethics. So key lessons, I would say, be transparent in what you do. And your transparency would help. As a company secretary, for example, I constantly liaising with board members and the chairpersons. And, I am almost like the go-between between management and the board. So it's important to have the confidence of the chairpersons that you work with. And I am transparent and open and ensure that whatever information they want or information dissemination happens seamlessly. At the same time, I'm part of the executive, so I'm actually part of the company
People who
which
make the decisions.
Exactly. Yes. So you also want a situation where you have everyone's confidence. So I would start with the level of transparency, and then ethics. Just do the right thing at the right time, follow the rules. And this just permeates whatever you do in terms of even regulatory compliance, talking to regulators, or even just, the point is when you have a high standard, it would guide you in your day-to-day approach to life and your approach to what you do in terms of your career and your growth.
Okay, just hearing you speak, it sounds so nice, sounds so easy, sounds so like you haven't had any challenge whatsoever. And it looks like you're kind of giving us the antidote where if you have integrity, you do things well, things will fall into place. Knowing the Nigerian factor, I need to hear more about that. Those challenges, when you have people who do not want to do the right thing, I'm not saying in your present organization, just generally in your experience, how have you been able to, I know you're a woman of integrity, but how have you been able to get to the point whereby your values are not compromised in any way or form, and you stick to whatever you say you want to do concerning any of the issues that are at play at that time?
Well, I'll say intentionality. I like that word. I'm intentional about everything I do. And of course, you also have structure. So where I work, we have policies, procedures, and practices that we abide by. But more about me, I am intentional about ensuring that I give my best self in my life, to my friends, to my family, and my job. So of course, you will have all these vices all around you, but when you know that, you know what is right to do and what is not right to do, you're intentional about keeping the straight path. So I'm just intentional.
So now I'm not even talking about influencing you to even do otherwise. I'm not talking about how, I mean, there are some places where you work, the organizations, they are a bit hostile. I'm not saying generally, but maybe in some instances or circumstances, you have some hostile employees or people, subordinates who, or even your peers who do not want to take the right path. How have you been able to walk through those hurdles when you met them?
That's a good one. And I'll just say, I think sometimes people internalize or a reflection of issues that they are dealing with. And so when you have that as a basis, it helps you understand difficulty. So if I have an employee that is difficult, sometimes you want to get to the root of the problem. Or, if you're in a place where there's a lot of hostility, could it be a cultural issue that has to be addressed from the root? Could it be a failing in human capital? So for me, I wouldn't internalize that. It's not about me, it's about them, right? And so you just find a way to make it work. It's a professional environment. And I always tell people, we're here to work, and we just have to get along and get going. So with that approach, it sometimes even disarms people and helps to create and foster, collaboration.
Okay, I have a lot of viewers who just started their careers or they are midway through their career. And I'm sure hearing your story and knowing that you've been able to move from the entry level now to managerial level where you're sitting boards, you talk about leadership decisions. I'm sure they want to know what kind of skills do they need? What do they require? Did you have to do something? Did you have to learn? Did you have to go back to school? Did you have to do anything within the corporate environment to be able to upskill yourself to get to that level? Also taking into consideration that you actually mentioned at the beginning that during our own time, there was no clear path as to I would do this, and I would get here. No, unlike now that everybody seems to be able to kind of have a plan as to what do we achieve this year to get to a certain goal. So how have you been able to do that to get to this place? Because I don't believe that anything is about chance, that you just got there by chance and because you are so good and that's all. No, I believe there will be far more to it.
I think it's half and half, I must say. There is indeed time and chance, but there's also working to ensure that life aligns with what you want. So my own idea is, and what I always advise people is to just have clarity. Once you have clarity as to what you want to do or what you want to achieve, then you can make your life align with your plans. I appreciate that there wouldn't always be jobs ready, but how I would explain this is you're an entry-level law student and you have decided, for example, that in my life, I want to work in a law firm, or maybe, I'm not talking even 5-10 year plan, or your plan is you need to have time for family or your children, even though you want to work, as opposed to someone who has decided that, you know what, I'm going to push and, work so hard. And then later on, it will be maybe a life of ease. And then you walk around that. So when you have clarity about how you want your career path to go, you make it work for you. So if you're in a job and you find that that work-life balance isn't working, then you intentionally start looking for the one that has a little more ease, or, you have leeways to have more time for your family.
If you're enjoying this episode already, I want you to take a moment to please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave your aha moments in the comment section below. We would love to engage with you. Okay, let's get back to the show.
So for me, I think that clarity helps guide your career. So I appreciate that. Of course, you can go for, people always say attend courses or network or, thought leadership.
Or mentorship or something.
Yes.
It may help.
But I believe that the starting point is actually clarity as to what you want to do.
Self-actualization or understanding what you want to do.
And then it helps guide the
you
path.
to the right path. That's interesting. So now, reflecting on your journey, your career path, you may have had some setbacks, some very, terrible instances or issues that you couldn't, that it was so difficult. You said, no, I may consider quitting. So can you mention one or two instances whereby you say, I can't do this anymore? And it may be personal reasons, it may be any reason whatsoever.
So I must say, I don't know if I've had significant setbacks that I would say made me think of quitting, but I have had those challenging moments. And I think most of us can relate to these challenging moments where you feel like you're not being heard or you're not able to bring out what you have.
Okay.
I mean, a good example is early on in my career was this conundrum about you apply for a job you want, and there's a barrier. You need 10 years experience, and you have 5 years experience. Yet you're ready for the job, right?
Yes.
And so I just wonder, and I think it's something that we all need to think about. Meaningful,
But I think a lot of that has changed now.
Has it changed? Well, I guess what I'm saying is, how do you get the right balance between, working around those so-called hurdles? You don't have enough experience to get the job you want,
on what has been published,
yet you're ready for the job. So for me, it's find a way to articulate the value that you bring to the table.
Okay.
But then again, even finding a way to even get to being able to articulate the value.
Yeah.
And then there's also the concept of even, the human capital in companies being meaningful. So what I mean by that is you ask or you say you have a job that needs 10 years experience, right? And how do you sift through meaningful experience? Because in law, and I'm sure you can attest to this, I would definitely hire a lawyer who has worked in a top tier firm, exposed to significant transactions for 3-5 years, over a lawyer who's been in, say, a one-man firm without just handling administrative actions and has 10-15 years experience.
Definitely.
So it's also being able to,
draw that balance.
yes, and get a meaningful clarity as to,
that makes sense.
is it really the length or the value or the substance?
The quality of
that's the word.
that person.
So those are the kinds of things. I think another one that I think we all face, and I've faced, is ageism. So what I mean by that, yes, is...
At what point? At the beginning or...
Even at the beginning, you have situations where you are qualified for a role and there's a perception that you're too young.
Too young.
And so why should age be a bar when you have the qualifications and you have the ability to execute? And then on the flip side is even in today's world, there's a shifting towards we want the millennials.
Exactly.
There's a belief that younger is more dynamic.
And they have the strength, the power, they have everything.
And they actually have their strengths. But I actually believe even what is young, what is youth, it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
Some people are young at heart.
Exactly.
And some people are old souls.
Yes. Everyone as they're very young, they are old souls, yes.
So both parties have something to bring to the table. And I think that there needs to be a little more advocacy and thoughts around that.
The selection process, why go for just a particular demographic over the other.
Many companies have a millennial strategy.
Policy, yes.
And I once actually brought this up where I worked at. What is the post-millennial strategy? Because if you think about it, there's a retirement age, and do the math, look at the ages. Nobody retires at 30, right? You're going to work to your 40s, your 50s, 60s. So what's the strategy to even managing that, and everyone brings something to the table. So I think maybe not I haven't had significant, issues that have made me want to resign. But I also think we need to think through all these issues and...
I think they are valid real issues.
Absolutely.
The ageism one that you just brought. I didn't think that... okay, not that I didn't think. I've heard of it. I mean, that's my field. But they actually really want more younger people. But I wouldn't think it would actually affect you as a person in any way. I think that's where I'm coming from more, because you're young at heart, because I know you, I know what you do. So it's really funny that people will still see somebody like you or even your peers and say you can't do the job or you're not as good as the millennials when you come with a bag of experience. And right now, experience is, for me, is really critical. Experience and skill, if you can blend that, and that is little.
I think there's also the argument, at least from experience, I have found that even beyond experience sometimes is attitude. And these are the soft skills that people are not really focusing on. I will probably hire attitude over aptitude.
Yes,
because there's a minimum standard that's a given, right? And when you have the right attitude, that kind of person can be molded. That kind of person is adaptable.
Receptive to information, growth and all. Yeah, definitely.
But with the wrong attitude, you might not be able to work.
Yes.
So I can share another challenge I had. The challenge I had was, it was even in a leadership position. I had to act in a role slightly longer than was intended.
Okay.
And this was because...
somebody had left that role?
Yes, and then I was a successor. But there's governance around filling the role. And you had to do like the internal governance to get into the role in terms of the
processing
analysis and the testing and all that. But there were delays. There were significant delays. And initially, it was a huge setback for me. Because, you know...
For how long?
It was over a year. And, you know, you're doing the work, you're getting good appraisals, but at the same time...
They're not giving you the role. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So, you know, it became one of these where I could either become toxic or I could just get on with it. So what I did, even though, I mean, it wasn't easy, I just thought... Initially, I actually thought I was going to resign. But I thought, what are the strategies? What do I need to do? So I started working on myself. So I started attending courses. I would pay. There was a WIM board course, Women on Boards. I attended it. I met people and then just became open to more opportunities. I got a message on LinkedIn once to be a moderator at an event. I accepted it and it was quite an interesting experience. But what this taught me...
you channeled your energy to positive things.
Yes, and it's interesting because this taught me is somehow that built my confidence. And I became a different person from the person who was waiting to be confirmed. And in a way, that's mischief cured itself, because with my intentional acts, it's almost as though my profile started to be built.
Without you even knowing.
Exactly. And then with the profile building came more confidence. And then those where I work saw that. And within an additional 3 or 4 months, I got confirmed into the role.
For the role, wow.
Yes. so for me...
You see, that is beautiful. I mean, I think our viewers, can you hear that story? Instead of quitting, sometimes we just take the easy way out. You channeled your energy to positive results and you built yourself. And you see, that's something I have even also learned myself, even from some guests who have sat here telling me that if they want a role, instead of thinking, oh, they are passing me by, they're not giving me the role, I think they are doing some disfavor to me. Instead of doing that, why don't you check yourself? And what you did was you checked yourself, you built yourself with the various steps that you took for learning and networking and all the different things, and see something about it. You may not say it, but the value starts to show. Absolutely. It shows even without you talking about it. And they identified you and they put you in the position.
I can even say that.
It's really wonderful to hear that.
I can even say that. But for the challenge, I don't believe I would be who I am today. It was the challenge that led to the domino effect of the growth. So you are right. You can turn something to your good.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's interesting. Well done. So you've been working for 20 years plus now. Definitely building your career. How have you been able to balance the work, life, family, friends, everything? Have you been able to balance all that?
It's an interesting one also. I have being intentional about the balance. Let me put it that way. I mean, everyone talks about work-life balance or work-life integration. I would state that I am very happy. I'm happy, at least one of the very positive outcomes of the COVID-19 pandemic is the fact that it codified and made it clear that work from home is doable.
It's doable and achievable. And it's still the same thing.
Yes, and I think many people even discover different sides to themselves, their family members, their children, being stuck at home. So the balance for me, it also depends on where you are in your career. That's the truth. And I also think one has to be realistic. What you want may not align with what the business or company you work with wants, and the other way around. So back to the concept of having clarity as what you want to do. It's about having the right alignment. So how I've balanced it is where I currently work, we actually have flexi time, but that doesn't mean that all companies have flexi time. So you also make an evaluation. Is that your priority? Are you happy to do 9 to 5 in the office, or do you absolutely need some days off? And it's something that one can even negotiate. You will find that the rules are not really so set in stone. When you show your value wherever you work, you would find that people are open to flexible means. Where I currently work, we have people who have been so valuable that, you know, there are options presented that may not necessarily even be codified in policy. And there are some exceptions to the rule. So I think that, of course, depending on where you are in your career, you're, you know, either early on, mid-range, or even towards the end of your career, and even how you liaise with who you work with would help in determining that balance. But I think that the clarity also guides it. And then you know whether you need to resign, you know whether you need to move to a place with more flexibility, or whether you're even going to take the entrepreneurial route.
So are you thinking of doing that anytime soon or anytime at all?
Well, the truth is, I must state that maybe prior to the pandemic, I never even thought about it. Post-COVID-19, I've realized that I'm just open. So it's not even so much, do I want to leave the corporate world? I am open to whatever possibilities present themselves, because you never know. Who would have thought the world would be the way it is now? Prior to the pandemic, you know, it was unheard of. Well, I mean, obviously, maybe not unheard of, but in this climate, to be working from home.
Oh, definitely.
And
it didn't make sense. It looked like everybody was playing if you're working from home.
And then even different work types have evolved and different career paths. So I'm open, I'm adaptable, and I'm flexible. So I am just...
If it happens, it happens.
If it happens, yes.
Interesting. I can't waive this part. The economic outlook in Nigeria. This is something that is prevailing now. It's a major issue in Nigeria, whereby our inflation rate is now, it was in December was 28.9. As of January, it's 29.2%, the inflation rate. How has this affected you personally and as a career woman, as well as even within your company? How have you been able to cope? Because we can't just be talking about career in the air, in the bubble. Whatever we do reflects on our workplace, the economy, Nigeria, everywhere. So how has that been able to adapt, or what have you done? Because people may want to hear you, or the viewers want to hear you to know what can they do in these times.
This is a good one. So I would say that what's going on in Nigeria has actually got me thinking very deeply. And I think that it's important. It's something I always talk about, the difference between your career and your job, right? So if you don't manage your career, your job will manage it. So I guess let me talk about the dichotomy and how I'll tie that to this the economic outlook. If you manage your career is what you have control over, which is simply, I have determined that I plan to maybe work for 5 years in a corporate work, or it may well be that I want to transition to a multinational role or a cross-jurisdictional role. And so within the 5-year time frame, I'm working actively towards getting that transition going. Now, if I don't have that active plan, I would just be in a job for 10 years and The only reason I would change is if the roles are advertised for a change. So when you actively manage your career, it helps you in terms of, even though you're a professional at your job, you know where you're going. Now, how I will tie this to the macroeconomic situation we have right now is, it's really got me thinking about, there are forces beyond our control that will affect us. And if we are not thinking dynamically about the next move or what we can do to buffer that, then we will have a problem. You would have a problem of frustration. You may work in a place where there are no strategies to increase remuneration. But even if remuneration is increased, when does this Naira devaluation, or rather, maybe not, but when does that end, right?
Join us on Omon's Couch, where inspiration meets action. If you are a remarkable entrepreneur or a career giant with a unique story to share, we want to hear from you. Become our guest on Omon's Couch and empower others with your journey, experiences, and valuable insights. Use the link provided in the description below to apply for yourself or nominate someone who deserves to be on this show. Let's inspire together.
So I think it's forced me to actually review and think, what else can I do? You know, do I have to, do I want to do, as they say, a side hustle? Or, thinking about
doing a side hustle.
or thinking about unique ways in which to, monetize. I think we're in a social media generation.
Oh, yes.
And over and above working 9 to 5.
Online.
There are things that can be done, there are opportunities, and it's really got me thinking. And I think it's important that we all think that way. Otherwise, you would almost be like a prisoner or in a cage. You're working with a company and it's whatever you get there that determines your output.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking another question. From your perspective of working in a corporate role, what do you think that employers and companies need to take cognizance of to do better?
So I think in a corporate role, there needs to be alignments. There needs to be proper alignment. The human capital or human resources function needs to be totally aligned with business strategy and the business needs. In my experience, without that clear alignment, you would have problems. You have a situation where you have a company has a direction it's going in, and the human capital function is not carried along.
Going to the other direction.
Exactly. Or you even have a situation where, I don't know why people do this, the head of human capital is not part of the leadership team. So, you have to be aligned with what the company wants, the company's culture. And when there's that connection, then it's seamless. To put it bluntly, human capital is pivotal in the success of a corporate. I really believe it. I mean, there are other parameters. So I've always found that. And then there's also the issue of the engine room. You have companies where no matter how well intending the CEO is, or even the company's policy is, there's a misalignment between leadership and the engine room, middle management, junior staff members. You need to understand what's going on in the business.
But sometimes, have you looked at it to find out that most times is the human capital lead that is incompetent?
It's possible.
Most times.
It is possible. And then that also speaks to the leadership. That should have been picked up. Why do you have appraisals? Or why do you have feedback sessions? Or even internal whistleblowing? The point is, if you are awake, you will pick up the mischief. You will pick up the issues.
And quickly address them.
Absolutely.
Instead of having them cause those gaps. That's fantastic. Derin, you've been recognized as one of the leading ladies in corporate Nigeria and nominated as the Legal Professional of the Year. How do you think such recognition impacts your career?
Interesting. I would say even before the fact of the impact, it's quite affirming to get all these recognitions.
Yes.
And the recognition in itself isn't quite the substance. I guess it's highlighting what you believe is there. Yes. But for me, what I would say for sure is it helps to build visibility. I have heard from people based on the recognition. And I think that in today's world, I'm always talking about visibility being a soft skill. It's important that anyone in the corporate environment who wants, to grow should be visible. And so the recognition in itself helped to put my name out there and just help to promote visibility. And for me, that is key. Personal brand. And I think people underestimate the strength of a personal brand. Your personal brand sometimes will speak for you when you are not there.
Yes.
And I've even been told by a panelist that it was what they had seen online that even gave them some ideas about what they would discuss during an interview session. So it helps to even give a little story. And sometimes it's quite boring to maybe do a search and not find anything on someone. It makes you wonder. Of course, it's not about the attributes, but it's good to have some sort of visibility. So I would say that it helps. It's affirming and it helps to promote the substance that is already there.
Oh, definitely. And I think for me, I never used to believe in personal brand. I didn't even understand it, truthfully. So I was always, and I think that's where what we share in common. I was always a back-end person just working. I was like, no, I don't need to I don't need to come out. I just wanted to work, get the business, move on to the next skill, get a business. But in 2020, COVID-19 actually brought a lot out there. Aside from the online opportunities, it also gave us the opportunity to showcase ourselves. We used to look at it as, if I have to be on the social media, my personal information has to be out there. But I remember a couple of wise people, but one particular one said to me, you only put what you want to be put out there. You can actually curate your story the way you want that story to be heard. So when I got to hear that, I was like, okay, that's fine. And I found out that building a personal brand actually gives depth to the work you've been doing for a long time that people don't know. And one thing I think a lot of us who are very hard workers do is that we think that when we work a lot, we work, everybody should know. You should know. I do this, you should know. But nobody knows. If you don't come out there, they don't see you. And they don't see you, they don't know. So that's something I personally have actually learned. So just to draw from what you have said, definitely personal brand, being out there, giving visibility is really critical in building not only your career brand, but also your entrepreneurship journey.
If I may add to what you've said, and I liked what you said about working hard. I think concerning your personal brand, you can use the analogy of working smart vis-a-vis working hard. Because a hard worker just works and works and works. But if your work is not seen, or is not rated, or even is not rendered when it should be, then what's the point of working hard?
There's no value for it.
So that is what visibility does with a personal brand.
With ease, yes.
Absolutely. And I must also add that you would observe that the more people read something about you, the more it is entrenched.
Yes. And it gives you that authority. So you're now an authority in your field. You have that depth and you have that understanding, and they can actually rely on you. And you can even get customers or people like us.
Absolutely.
Because you never know where they come from. Just like you mentioned that somebody saw what you had done online and picked on it and used that to have a good discussion with you. So I think personal brand in today's world is extremely powerful. It's a currency on its own.
Absolutely.
It's a currency on its own. So well done for all the wonderful things you've been doing. And I think our viewers have heard a lot of words of wisdom, but we're not yet done. We need to know, what does success look like for Derin? What is success to you? What does success look like?
My views about success are interesting. Success to me is subjective. It depends on the individual and it depends on what's important to you. So over and above maybe a career sort of response is, what is dear to me? I would view myself as successful if you meet my son and you say, oh, wow, what a well-adjusted, humble individual this boy is.
Wow.
Because that shows that I've been a great mother.
Okay.
So success is subjective. It depends on what's important to you. For some people, success is, I have built 3 high-rise buildings. So to me, success is just subjective, and it just reflects excellence. So excellence in what you do, excellence in your output, and some sort of gratification in what you have achieved.
So from the way you have put it, nice, like your son is number one Any way you look at it.
So I am a woman of many parts. So in that part, yes,
Yes.
Success is being a great mom, being a great spouse, being a fantastic professional at work. How do people speak about you when you are not there? What did you leave behind? As opposed to, are they relieved?
So leaving
that you
a
have
wonderful legacy.
Absolutely.
Is absolutely something that you gear towards. Fantastic. Okay, our viewers, when you are in your career journey, there's one very clear thing I think I have picked today that you must be able to do from the beginning. You must have a clear path to what you want to do. I mean, maybe you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a professional lawyer in a corporate environment, you want to be an accountant, you want to be maybe a public relations officer, whatever it is. Because every role, every job, every position has its own dynamics. You must be able to have a clear path as to what you want to do with that role. Legal has many areas. Corporate communication has different areas. You must have a clear path because the clear path gives you a right path to your journey. When you know your paths, what do you think would happen? You will definitely know what the building blocks you will require. Do you need to go for further education? Do you need to advance yourself in one course or the other? Do you need to have mentors who will guide you? Or do you even need to position yourself in such a way that you get jobs within the company you're working for, or tasks within the company you're working for that will actually prepare you and build you for the role you eventually want to have in the future. So a clear path gives you a clear direction, a clear purpose, and a clear pathway to your goal or your success story as you would want it. Then another thing I think I have picked from today's discussion will be the issue of visibility. Visibility. A lot of people, I mean, since 2020, I'm sure we all know what we all understand. Visibility has been a major thing in the world today. Most people are building their personal brand. I am even getting to understand personal brand. I'm seeing the value of personal brand, how you can actually use a personal brand to, I think one of our viewers has mentioned before that the personal brand is actually an easy way of communicating who you are to a third party without even doing so much. So you may do a lot of hard work, but people may not see it. And people will definitely not see because you're not showcasing it in any way or form. So it's not like they are going to be fortune tellers to know that you have done this or done that. But having yourself out there, giving good information as on subject matters that that relates with you, things that you understand. I mean, things that you really, really understand. I don't expect you to come out and talk about topics that you don't even resonate with, or you don't even have any skill, or even any business even talking about. But where you have your strength or you've built competence in that area, you're free to be able to share. And before you know it, those little discussions light up some bulbs of value that you cannot even imagine. And you never know where it may take you to. I think visibility for me gives you a currency that you cannot even play with. So please, whatever way you actually advocate, I don't expect that every single person will be somebody who will be talking everywhere. No. I don't expect that. But for those who feel that they have something to share and something of impact to people, for people, then they can actually do that. So visibility is very critical. Take note of it. And for next time, please watch Omon's Couch and we'll be here waiting to hear from you. Take care and have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching Omon's Couch. I'm sure you're eager for another inspiring story. So click here to watch another episode or click here to subscribe. I will see you in the next video.